Israel is about to launch a massive ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. Why? Last Saturday, around 3,000 Hamas terrorists, armed to the teeth, invaded southern Israel and brutally murdered 1,400 Israeli civilians, kidnapped over 155 hostages, and took them back into the Gaza Strip. Every day since, Hamas has been launching hundreds of rockets into Israeli population centers, making hundreds of thousands of civilians run for their lives to the bomb shelters multiple times a day. After striking hundreds of terror targets inside the Gaza Strip with the Israeli Air Force, the IDF is nearly ready for a ground offensive to wipe out this evil regime. Israel is also facing a massive threat on their northern border. Hezbollah, an Iranian proxy whose military capability makes Hamas look like small potatoes, is viciously threatening to attack Israel with their arsenal of at least 100,000 rockets aimed at Israel and with their armed terrorists ready to infiltrate the northern border. Inside the heartland of Israel, Hamas, Fatah, Islamic Jihad, Lion's Den, and other terror groups are operating in the Palestinian towns of Judea and Samaria. Hamas is calling on all those terror groups to rise up in the West Bank and imitate the horrific attack they committed in the South. The United States of America has moved 2 aircraft carriers into the Middle East to try and deter Hezbollah and possibly even Iran from a full-on attack of Israel. You may ask, what's the good news in all of this? Well, the good news is that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. We have a lot to talk about from the land of Israel today. And boy, is now the time more than ever for you to get true news and accurate news from Israel, because unfortunately, the media, social media, all these online news sources are full of misinformation because there's so many reports coming about what's happening with the war here in the land of Israel. And let me tell you, there's a lot of Jew hatred going on around the world with protests supporting the terror organization of Hamas. We're going to get to all that in just one second. But first, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here at the Israel Guys, because we're going to be bringing you updates every day, multiple times a day, with videos and shorts. And you can check our social media pages out. All the links are down in the description below, giving you the updates about what is actually happening here in Israel and trying to keep you informed. So I would really recommend you subscribe to the channel. Also helps us out, get the information out to more people. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You guys know what to do. Also, if you want a little bit more of a personal connection, you can join our WhatsApp channel, Breaking News WhatsApp channel. The link is down in the description below, and we're sending out updates on that channel as well. All right, guys, there is a lot happening in the land of Israel. And before we get into a breakdown of what the latest is on the war, Israel is now in their second week of war with Hamas, the terror organization, and potentially other new fronts opening up in the very, very near future. Before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about a huge way that you can help the people of Judea and Samaria, the Israeli Jews living inside the biblical heartland of Israel. Guys, we are launching Operation Ittai. And you may ask, who in the world is Ittai? Ittai was a foreigner who stood with King David in the Bible, in actually 2 Samuel chapter 15. Go look it up and read about him. Amazing man there. He was not Jewish, but he joined with King David to fight and help King David conquer the land of Israel and set up his kingdom. We are calling, just like Ittai, we are calling Christian Zionists from all over the world to stand with the nation of Israel in this very, very difficult time. Specifically, Operation Ittai is to equip and defend Israel's heartland. And as you know, with all the craziness, 1,400 Israeli civilians were murdered. There's the war front in Gaza right now, and Hezbollah's threatening in the north with Iran backing Hezbollah. We also have missile rockets coming from Syria as well. Our organization, our volunteer organization, Hayuvel, who's been operating in Israel for the last 18 years, has been strategically placed to provide a massive airlift. We're working on an airlift of humanitarian supplies and security equipment for the civilians here in Judea and Samaria. We're working on getting that in the coming days, very, very soon. At this moment, we have suppliers, purchasers, exports, importers, and dealers lined up to help us get this airlift into the nation of Israel. We're going to be bringing things like protective vests, thermal drones, night vision goggles, binoculars, flashlights, security cameras, and gates for the farms and small communities of Judea and Samaria. All this is to help them protect their families and protect these farms and communities here in Judea and Samaria. Guys, we are raising $29 million to bring this massive airlift of very much needed equipment into Judea and Samaria, and we need your help. We are calling on all Christian Zionists from around the world to rise up, just like Ittai in the Bible, helping King David to help the nation of Israel today. Give generously. You can go to the website, click the link in the description below, and you can help us out raise these funds to bring this airlift into the land of Israel. So Israel is preparing to invade the Gaza Strip. They're preparing for the last week, and at least for the last several days, they've actually been warning the citizens of Gaza, of northern Gaza, where they're planning to invade, to evacuate to southern Gaza. So Hamas has been firing rockets ever since this started last Saturday morning. And Israel, very soon after, started striking terror targets inside the Gaza Strip with the Israeli Air Force. They have struck very heavily, struck hundreds of targets. They're operating every single day, hitting these terror targets inside the Gaza Strip. But still, Hamas is continuing to fire rockets every single day, multiple times a day. So they've been warning the Gaza civilians to evacuate from northern Gaza to the southern Gaza. And they've been doing it for multiple days now, giving them plenty of time, way more time than anybody else would in this type of situation, to actually move out of the area that the IDF is planning to come in and to eradicate the terror cells and whatever infrastructure the terrorists have left in the northern Gaza Strip. I saw a report from Reuters the other day saying there were at least 40,000 Hamas terrorists waiting for the IDF in northern Gaza there, and there's talk of terror tunnels throughout the entire northern Gaza Strip. So it's definitely going to be a very complicated mission, very intense mission for those soldiers. And we will continue as Christians to lift up the military of Israel, pray for them as those soldiers go in and try to root out this evil, root out these terrorists, so they can defend the nation of Israel and keep Israeli civilians safe. The crazy thing is, though, they've been giving the civilians plenty of time to evacuate, but they've also been giving, when they do this, they wait so long, they've been giving Hamas so much more time to prepare for the assault, prepare for the ground assault. Can't imagine what they're doing to prepare for that, setting landmines, setting booby traps, whatever they're doing. It's going to make the mission ever so much more complicated, but it illustrates that the morality, the extreme measures that Israel goes to make sure civilians stay safe and make sure they're not intentionally putting any civilians into harm's way. Unfortunately, with the craziness of war, civilians get hit when in airstrikes and different things like that. But do not believe any post on social media, any post, any news network when they say that Israel is targeting civilians, even that they're targeting civilians in retaliation for Hamas coming in and killing 1,400 Israeli civilians. No. They're not targeting civilians. Unfortunately, civilians will die in this war because of the nature of the war, and that's just what happens. Israel is not going to target them, though. The IDF posted this photo on Twitter with a caption that read, "Residents of Gaza City and northern Gaza, in the past days, we've urged you to relocate to the southern area for your safety. We want to inform you that the IDF will not carry out any operations along this route from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. During this window, please take the opportunity to move southward from northern Gaza." End quote. So the IDF is literally saying, take this route south. We won't be operating in this area at all, so it's going to be free. There's not going to be any danger for you trying to move out from that area. Do this in between these times because you need to get out, and we are coming in. Again, illustrating their extreme measures they go to warn civilians. They've been dropping thousands and thousands of leaflets all over Gaza telling the citizens to get out of that area. So here's the issue. Hamas, of course, does not want that to happen because they love to keep that image, and unfortunately people bite it and people take the bait, that Israel is targeting civilians. So Hamas wants these civilians here to use as human shields. They put out a notice immediately after the IDF notified the residents of Gaza to leave. Hamas put out a notice saying, nobody leave your homes. Everyone stay where you are. You are not going to evacuate to the south. We want you in harm's way. It's basically the gist of the message. Also, a video when the residents started fleeing from north to south. Many of them did flee despite Hamas's warning. There was a video posted of supposedly the Israeli Air Force striking and hitting a convoy of residents that were fleeing from north to south. The video was put up saying Israel is attacking these civilians on the highway. After just a very, very few analysts looking closely at the video realized that there was no missile coming from the air. It was, in fact, a car bomb. Seems to be some sort of explosion on the ground, probably a car bomb that exploded on the highway there, trying to stop, potentially, and maybe discourage the residents from fleeing northern Gaza to get to a place of safety. The most likely culprit in this case is Hamas themselves, trying to deter those civilians from actually getting out of harm's way so that they could use them as human shields. There was also a photo that I think the IDF took and posted of Hamas trucks blocking roads that civilians and convoys of vehicles and Gaza residents were trying to flee down those roads. So guys, Hamas is evil. They don't even care about the lives of their own people inside the Gaza Strip, which is even more of a reason for Israel to go in and take out this evil regime. The IDF reported that as of yesterday, 600,000 residents of Gaza had evacuated to the southern part of the Gaza Strip. The IDF has struck just Saturday night, and I think last night they struck many, many more. They struck over 100 targets just in one night. Last week I saw over 20 targets. Could have been much, much more. Information on that is still coming in. But so far, the IDF, in their strikes of the Gaza Strip, have killed at least 6 key Hamas terrorist leaders. These were all leaders, some of whom were actually directly behind the massacres in some of these Israeli kibbutzes and towns in southern Gaza. The guys they took out were the commander of the Hamas Nukba Jabala assault company. That was one of them, the head of the International Relations Office in Hamas's political bureau, the commander of the Nukba Southern Khan assault company, the commander of the Hamas Southern District of National Security, the Hamas Minister of the Economy in the Gaza Strip. Great job he's been doing because there's literally no economy in the Gaza Strip. I don't even know what he does. Obviously, he's a terrorist. But the head of the Hamas aerial array in Gaza City. So those are the confirmed terrorist leaders that Israel knows that they have been able to take out. So yes, these strikes have been effective and they have destroyed hundreds of terror locations, terror bases, rocket launching centers, office buildings that Hamas uses to carry out their murderous regime. Israel has been able to strike a lot of those areas. And like I said earlier, Hamas is still shooting rockets. For the last 10 days, sirens have been going off in Israeli cities every single day, even multiple times a day as Hamas is firing rockets towards Israeli population centers. Several times they've actually gone off in the north as well from Hezbollah. We'll talk about that in a second. But I want to play this video real quick. I was actually in Herzliya yesterday and heard the sirens and had to run to a shelter.
Hey guys, I actually just had to do something I never had to do before because we are in our bracha. But I'm in Herzliya right here. We had the air raid sirens go off. So I had to run into this bomb shelter here in the store on the side of the road. And yeah, I heard 2 loud explosions very close to here. So Israel is still being hit with rockets from Hamas from Gaza. And it's for all the citizens out here, they have to run to shelters multiple times a day. Horrible situation, but thank God the IDF is strong and they're attacking Gaza and taking out Hamas. That's the update from Herzliya, Israel.
So like I said, this was in Herzliya. I was out there getting some supplies, and the notice I got from the Home Front Command said that I had 1 minute and 1.5 minutes to get to a bomb shelter. And that was actually the first time I've ever myself had to run to a bomb shelter because of the rocket sirens where we are located in Israel, we're not in the range. They don't usually shoot rockets out to where we are here in Judea and Samaria. So that was a bit of a new experience for me, but realizing that hundreds of thousands of Israelis have to do this every single day. And for where I was at, it was further north. So we had a minute and a half to get to bomb shelters, which is reasonably doable for most citizens. But further south, they have much, much less time. I think that's the towns that are right on the border, some of them have even 6 seconds to get to a bomb shelter. Most of the places probably have around 30 seconds. You have to run and get your family safe inside those shelters. You can imagine waking up in the middle of the night, you hear the sirens, you got to grab your family, you got to grab your kids, run to the bomb shelter, try to make it in time, and hope and pray that the Iron Dome either takes out the rocket or that the rocket will not hit any civilians or hit any infrastructure in these towns. And this is the big difference between who Hamas is and what the IDF is trying to accomplish here, because there's so many reports and people online that I see, they're like, oh, this is a war and there needs to be proportionate use of force here because Hamas and blah, blah, all this nonsense, stupidity is what it is. But Hamas is targeting civilians. Hamas is intentionally targeting civilians, not only with their massive massacre down south of the 1,400 Israelis, but they're shooting these rockets not at military bases. They're shooting these rockets at Tel Aviv, at these massive population centers, trying to hit civilians. And the biggest thing the rockets do is create a sense of fear and create that chaos that is such a vital part of warfare these days, is creating that mental warfare and the chaos and the fear that brings along with it. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse. I know for me, it was, obviously I didn't have a problem. I was right on the side of the road, and it was not traumatic for me. But for many Israelis, having to do this many times a day, and they don't have nearly as much time, and their kids and these little children, it's a horrific reality to think that this is what these guys are actually experiencing. So that's what was going on with the rockets there. And then we also have Israel's northern border, which the IDF is on high alert up there. So far, there hasn't been a full-on attack from Hezbollah in the north, but things are definitely heating up. And the Hezbollah terror organization has been threatening viciously Israel, saying they're going to do what Hamas did. They're going to do it to a greater extent. And there have been several mortars that have been fired from Lebanon and also from Syria, which is very interesting because Syria is kind of its own thing. Like Hezbollah is in Lebanon mostly, and Syria has been rather quiet for the last several years. Yesterday, there was actually an anti-tank missile fired across the border by Hezbollah. There was one actually killed and 2 injured in that missile that was shot across the border. The IDF yesterday isolated an area of up to 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles from the Lebanon border, basically evacuating that entire area. They evacuated 28 communities, 28 towns in that 2.5 mile area from Lebanon, evacuated those communities, and those guys are going to go to, they're moving all those civilians to guest houses that are subsidized by the government. But evacuating 28 towns along the border, that's pretty serious, realizing that there is a major threat from Hezbollah here located in Lebanon, not only with their 100,000 plus rockets that are all trained on Israel, but also from a potential ground invasion with Hamas terrorists, the guerrilla troops that could come in, the guerrilla warfare coming across the border and attacking Israel, just like Hamas did, potentially breaching the fence. We don't know. We don't want to speculate, but these are very real threats that Israel is facing. Also, Syria. What's going on in Syria? Why is Syria trying to fire at Israel? Israel has bombed the airstrips in both Damascus and Aleppo in Syria. And so we don't exactly know what's going to happen there, but there's obviously some sort of a threat. I don't know if it was supplies coming into Syria from another country. I've heard speculation about it being Iran. We don't know a lot of facts about that yet, but we do know that there are threats that could potentially spring up from those areas. Also, talking about evacuations with the communities in the north, the town of Sderot and those that are right on the Gaza border are also being evacuated of civilians in preparation for the IDF that is about to move into Gaza. And like I said before, here in Judea and Samaria, there's there's that threat, and why Operation Itai, our campaign, is very, very important to try to get those much needed supplies to the civilians here in Judea and Samaria to defend their towns and farms and communities here. I want to talk for a second about the United States response to this whole war, and specifically Hamas's attack on Israeli civilians. When the first images of the horrors of what actually happened, and the heaviness and that reality of this horrific tragedy, this massacre that took place down in southern Gaza, when these images first started coming out, the Biden administration was very strong in its support of the state of Israel, and also very strong in its condemnation of Hamas and this attack, which is rather shocking because the Biden administration, previous to this, have never come out strongly against any terror attacks against Jews. They've always said, "Oh, we condemn violence." That's pretty much the extent of what the Biden administration does to condemn attacks against Jews. They say we condemn violence on all sides. This time, however, was much, much different. They came out very strongly saying that Hamas, specifically this attack and what they did, was evil. This is the face of evil. This is horrible. Hamas needs to be punished, needs to be eradicated. All these things that they said very much departed from their usual attitude and statements on Israel and the conflict per se. The Biden administration is usually not supportive of Israel taking drastic measures to defend themselves, taking the necessary measures. Specifically Biden and the State Department, have always been holding Israel back. You need to use restraint. You can't go in and level terrorist houses. You can't go in and into these towns and take out terrorists. All that kind of rhetoric normally comes out of the Biden administration, but specifically this time it's much, much different, and made me hopeful that potentially this was sort of a bit of a change coming in our administration. I'm not fully sure that that's going to happen. There are some things I am concerned about. One is that because of the great support of the last week and the great sympathy and even what the America is doing, they could be using this as leverage to pressure Israel into doing something that is not good for the country to do. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that would be, but the Biden administration has historically been very good at finding something to pressure Israel into doing, or to at least try to pressure Israel into doing, that would be a big mistake on Israel's part, and potentially harm Israel's security. And in this case, pressuring Israel to stop attacking Hamas. I don't know. Nothing's come out yet, but there is that real fear and that possibility that something like that could happen. Last night, Sunday night, on a 60 Minutes interview, Joe Biden said that he thinks Hamas needs to be eliminated completely, so that's good. But then right after that, he said, but there needs to be a Palestinian state. Now, I don't know how you could say those two things back to back, because basically Hamas is literally the example of what happens when you give the Palestinians a state, as it were. You have Gaza. They gave Gaza to the Palestinians for them to rule autonomously. It was supposed to be a demilitarized zone. What was the result of that? Hamas. What was the result of Hamas? 1,400 Israelis dead in one day and 3,000 injured, 200 taken hostage. That was the result of giving the Palestinians their own state, per se. So yeah, you can't say those things literally back to back. We need to eradicate Hamas, but there needs to be a Palestinian state. That's completely false. Biden also said, so it's kind of a little bit of, you get into his mind of, he's very supportive of Israel right now, but he's still holding to his core beliefs that Palestinians need their own autonomous state inside the land of Israel, which would be a horrible, horrible mistake. But Biden did say in the interview last night that Israel retaking the Gaza Strip would be a big, big mistake. So we do know that the Biden administration still has their same beliefs and their same values, that Israel needs to give part of its land that God gave them so long ago. God promised the nation of Israel. Israel still needs to give that away to the Palestinians, who only want the destruction of Israel and dead Jews. Yeah, that's still the policy of the United States. But right now, they're being very, very supportive of Israel, and even condemning the horrific and the horrible people, the evil Hamas terror organization. Guys, there are unfortunately a lot of protests happening around the world, even though there's a lot of support for Israel. It really goes on both sides, and it really shows you the battle that's going on. It's not just about the Palestinians and Israel. It's really spread to all over the world. There's mass protest all over the world in support of the Palestinians, in support of Hamas. I saw a massive protest in London. Even there was one I saw on the UCLA campus with student protest, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people, Palestinian flags, supporting Hamas. They were chanting Intifada, Intifada. These guys were calling for the death of Jews. Intifada, that's what that means. The first Intifada, the second Intifada, and even the quasi-Intifada of the last 2 years means dead Jews. That's what these guys are trying to do. So for any of the people that are supporting the Palestinian cause in this time, during this war specifically, really heightened it, really goes to show these people want the destruction of the state of Israel, and these people want dead Jews. It's not about giving Palestinians freedom. Some of these people may think that, but that is not at all what this cause is about. So on the other side, though, there are some good news and there are some good protests happening. I saw a massive protest in Amsterdam, rally, I should call it, in support of Israel, rallying in support of the nation of Israel. They're singing Hatikva, singing Israeli songs, people with Israeli flags coming behind. Also massive protests in Brazil. So there are a lot of people that are standing up and coming to the support of Israel. Guys, as Christians, you know where we need to stand. We need to stand with the Bible and with the nation of Israel. Guys, continue to pray for the nation of Israel. Pray for success for Israel's military that could go in and wipe out this evil, the Hamas terrorist inside of Gaza. Pray that God would protect Israel's soldiers. Pray for those at home that they would have peace and strength to support the soldiers on the front. Pray for the nation of Israel, for the leaders, and just pray for safety and God's peace to come here in the land of Israel. Guys, you can also post your support for the nation of Israel online. Guys, don't be scared. Go public. Voice it. The world needs to see that there are thousands, millions of Christians around the world that support the nation of Israel. We cannot be silent in times like this. Also, guys, support Israel financially. Join Operation Itai to get supplies Israel needs, specifically here in Judea and Samaria, to defend and to protect these small communities and farms here in the biblical heartland of Israel. Click the link in the description below. Go to OperationItai.com and join the campaign to help bring these emergency supplies to the civilians here in Judea and Samaria. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. Put a comment down below where you're from, where you're watching from. Say that you support the nation of Israel. We love hearing from you there. Also, and just join the comment section. Leave a like. And remember, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, multiple times a day. Keep posted with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.